What's going on, everybody? This is Blister coming at you with another classic WoW video. In today's video, I want to talk about something that I've wanted to talk about for a while, but I just never really found the time to do it. But today we're finally going to do it. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 classes from classic WoW. So there wasn't a whole lot of different classes in classic, but in my mind, there were 5 classes that really stuck out above all the others. And I'm going to give you my top 5 list. Now, this is personal, but a lot of the information that I'm going to share with this is stuff that a lot of people agree with and stuff that you can find when you start looking about these classes online. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Number 5 is the Hunter. There's a lot of reasons why the Hunter makes this list, but the reason why he's so low is just because he doesn't quite compare in terms of DPS once you get to the higher end game. If he's in the hands of a really good player who knows what they're doing, in PvP, they can be really, really good. You go on online and you can find videos of people running the Hunter and killing 2-3 people at a time by themselves. Another great thing about the Hunter is that they're actually pretty good for farming. Because you have your pet, you're able to do a lot of things that a lot of other classes can't. The Warlock would be the only other class that has something similar to what the Hunter has. But most people would agree that the Hunter is still a better farming class than the Warlock. The Hunter is a class that's actually pretty easy to level too. That is, once you get your pet. Until you get your pet, it's a little rough, but you get your pet pretty early. So leveling a Hunter all the way up to 60 isn't that bad. You're not going to have a lot of downtime, so that makes all of the leveling that much quicker. You are going to have to spend a little bit extra money on your arrows or your bullets, depending on what kind of weapon you're using, and some extra food for your pet. But all that being said, it's much easier to level a Hunter than most other classes. The Hunters also have a pretty good skill set. They have traps that can be very good for PvP and for PvE. They have Hunter's Mark, which is great in all situations. They can feign death and drink in the middle of combat, which is extremely helpful. They're the kings of kiting, and they also get trank shot, which is huge back in the day. Coming in at number 4 is the Mage. The Mage is one of, if not the best ranged DPS in classic WoW. Not only are they good in PvE, they're also kings in PvP. In the right hands, they can go up against any other class in the game. They also have things like portals and water and food that they can make for raids, which is awesome. They also have 2 viable specs, which was not very common back in the day. Usually, people would go Frost towards the early days of raiding and then end up being Fire once they get the better gear. But in terms of PvE, there was 2 viable specs. They were also very good CC in class with their polymorph. The only real downside that a Mage has is his threat issues. A Mage doesn't really have anything to reduce its threat other than, stop casting and start using your wand. But all that being said, I still think the Mage deserves a spot on this list, and that's why they're at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is the Rogue. The Rogue is number 3 because they are one of the best DPS classes in the game, period. Now, a lot of people will argue that, hey, Warriors are better than Rogues, and yes, at higher ends, Warriors do get some better gear, and they'll actually start to pull ahead of the Rogues, but most of the time, you're going to see a Rogue in the group instead of a Fury Warrior. They're really good at DPS, and they have good threat management as well. Not only that, but Rogues are also so good in PvP. There's a lot of videos that you can find on YouTube of classic WoW and vanilla WoW of people going out and killing other people as a Rogue with no gear on. And that's because of how their skills ranked up. Their skills just didn't scale with gear. Their skills, once you got the last rank of Eviscerate, that was the damage you did. So it didn't matter what gear you had on. If you were just hitting 5 combo point Eviscerate, whether you were in tier 3 or in naked, you were doing the same amount of damage. Their stuns in PvP were also extremely overpowered. The reason why their damage is still so great though is because of Slice and Dice. Slice and Dice is going to make their white damage go up because they're just swinging their weapons faster. So once they get a better weapon, they're going to be hitting harder, and they're going to be hitting more often with Slice and Dice. So that's why their damage was able to keep up with other classes in late game raiding. And the last thing I want to talk about the Rogue is the poisons. In PvP, they're great. In PvE, you can't always use them depending on what kind of content you're doing. If you're doing a raid, more than likely you're not going to be able to use your poisons. But if you're in a 5-man, you're more than likely going to be able to use them. So it's kind of a pro and a con, poisons. But anyways, that's Rogue in at number 3. Number 2 is the Priest. The Priest, by a lot of means, is the strongest healer in the game. Paladins might be able to outshine them in single target, but when it comes to an all-around healer, the Priest is definitely your best option for healing in vanilla WoW. Not only were they the best healers, they had 2 viable healing specs with Discipline and Holy. Once guilds had content on farm, you would start to see the Priest switch over to the Discipline spec because it didn't have as much raw output for healing as Holy does, but it's still nice to see that there were 2 viable specs for one class for healing. Just 2 healing specs. It's great. Another huge cool thing about the Priest is their unique racials. All the classes that could roll a Priest had different racials. The one racial that everybody remembers is Fear Ward, and that was for the dwarves. 2 last notes for the Priest before we head over to our number 1 pick. We had 2 unique skills with the Priest as well, which was Mind Control and Mana Burn. Those 2 spells were awesome in PvP. If you ever rolled a Priest or you've seen Priest videos of PvP, you're probably very familiar with Priest mind controlling people in Arathi Basin and jumping off the lumber mill to their death. And in at number 1 is the Warrior. And I'm sure a lot of you guys were expecting this, and it's just because I believe they are just the best class in vanilla. You look at them and they have some of the best DPS, arguably the best DPS once they get some gear in raiding in situations and in just PvE in general. If you ask people, a lot of people will tell you that they're the only viable tank, especially when it comes to raiding. Sure, you can have paladins and druids tanking, and even the rare shaman tanking your 5 and maybe some 10-mans, but when it comes to AQ40 or it comes to Nax or even Blackwing Lair, you're going to see all warrior tanks in there. You're not going to see a paladin trying to tank that. You might every once in a while see a druid, but you're really not going to see anything else but a warrior in those situations. They're also very, very good in PvP, and if they had a healer, don't even bother. They're just going to kill you. A warrior with a healer in PvP was unstoppable. It was just unstoppable. They were great. All of that, plus the fact that they scaled great with gear, I don't know why you wouldn't say that this is the best class from Classic. So anyways, guys, those are my 5 top classes for Classic WoW. As you could probably guess, 3 of these classes are in my mind for what I want to play when Classic rolls around. Still haven't figured it out. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think are the top 5 classes. I want to know if we agree or disagree. Let me know, guys. As always, take care and thanks for watching.
Hey, it's Radit here. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe as well. It really helps out the channel. We put out multiple new videos each week and we appreciate all of your support. Thanks for watching, everyone, and cheers.